I always believed that when a marriage begins to crumble, the first crack is never loud. It's a soft sound, almost like fabric stretching. You feel it before you hear it. You know something is wrong long before anyone speaks a word. For me, that crack appeared on an ordinary Thursday night. Olivia's heels clicked through the hallway like she was returning from a photo shoot. Not a casual evening out. She looked different, and not in a subtle way. Her hair was styled the way she reserved for corporate galas. Her lipstick was a shade she used only for special occasions. And her dress? She hadn't worn that one for me in over a year. I was chopping vegetables in the kitchen, pretending not to notice the way her perfume swept in before she did. "Jason," she said lightly, dropping her clutch on the counter. "Don't wait up for me next time, okay? I told you I'd be late." She said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I looked at her carefully. "I thought you said you were meeting Emily for a quick dinner." Olivia's smile tightened for a moment, the kind of micro-expression most people would miss. But I wasn't most people. I was a cybersecurity consultant who built a career on noticing everything. "Oh," she waved her hand. "Emily couldn't make it. So I met up with Tyler. Remember? An old college friend?" She laughed, a strange, airy laugh that wasn't meant for me. "Relax, Jason. It's just dinner." But she didn't look like someone who went out for just dinner. She looked like someone preparing for a second first date. And that's when I felt the crack. Not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakable. The backup that changed everything. I didn't plan to check her backup files. I wasn't that husband. At least, I hadn't been. But after she went to bed, after she fell asleep quicker than someone who'd had just 2 glasses of wine, I walked into my office and sat down at my desk. My hands felt heavy, but my mind was sharp. Olivia's iCloud had automatically synced earlier that evening. It wasn't intentional. She simply used the same password for everything. Her bank account, her email, her cloud, her notes. A single predictable password. It wasn't hacking. It was negligence, or perhaps arrogance. I opened the latest backup. Text messages appeared in neat chronological rows. Tyler Bennett, my business partner, my friend, my co-founder in our firm, Sentinel Wave Security. I clicked the thread, and the world I thought I knew collapsed. "You looked incredible tonight. That dress, God, I couldn't focus. Next time, we shouldn't go somewhere public. I keep thinking about last week. Same room? Same hotel? Thursday works for me." There were timestamps, photos, voice notes, location pins, all pointing to the same place. The Ridgeview Hotel, the one Tyler always used when he came to our city. Olivia's laugh from earlier echoed in my head like a taunt. She laughed. And she thought I knew nothing. Forensic eyes never miss. I restored deleted content, photos she removed, messages she thought she hid, whispered voice notes that were too intimate to mistake for anything else. Each recovered file was another needle under my skin. Then came the final blow. A video she recorded for him. Nothing explicit, but the way she touched her hair, the way she whispered, "I can't stop thinking about you." She had never spoken to me that way. Not in years. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Tyler Bennett, my partner, my colleague, the man I trusted with contracts worth millions. He was having an affair with my wife, and she was laughing about another date, expecting me to believe it. But betrayal never travels alone. It arrives with other sins. And betrayal in business? That leaves traces too. The investigation expands. Tyler and I owned a cybersecurity firm, meaning every digital trail he created, I knew exactly where to look. And what I found made the affair look like the least of our problems. Expense reports filled with hotel charges, spa receipts, restaurant bills, all disguised as client meetings. Personal travel, masked as corporate retreats. Reimbursement forms that were clumsy and arrogant. He used business funds to pay for their trysts. And that was fraud. I documented everything step by step like I would for any criminal case. Chain of custody logs, SHA 256 hash certifications, encrypted archives. The kind of evidence no lawyer could dismiss. When the sun began to rise, I wasn't the same man. I wasn't the husband waiting for explanations. I wasn't the business partner hoping for honesty. I was the one holding every card on the table. And Olivia didn't know a single thing about it. The calm before the storm. At breakfast, she was unusually cheerful. It made me sick. She wore sweatpants and hummed while stirring her coffee, as if last night's dress and lipstick belonged to another universe. "How late did you stay up working?" she asked casually. "Late," I said. "Really late. What were you working on?" For a split second, her eyes darted to my laptop on the table. If she had asked last week, I would have answered without suspicion. Now, I recognized that look. I clicked my screen downward so she couldn't see anything. "Just some client audits," I said calmly. She nodded, relieved. She thought she was safe. She thought she was clever. She thought she was in control. But she laughed last night telling me about her date. And soon, very soon, I would show her reality. All of it. He didn't expect what happened next. When Jason finished talking, Rachel didn't rush to comfort him. She didn't offer platitudes or superficial reassurance. Instead, she took a long breath, stepped closer, and placed her camera gently on the table beside them. "Jason," she said softly, "you survived something that would have broken a lot of people. You were betrayed not just by a partner, but by someone who used your trust as a tool. You were manipulated by a man who weaponized vulnerability. And still, you're here. You're rebuilding." He didn't know why, but her words hit deeper than any therapist's session he'd ever attended. "Yeah," he exhaled, "but sometimes it still feels like I'm watching someone else's life." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "That's trauma. And healing from it isn't a straight line. Some days it's peace, some days it's chaos, and some days it's just numb." Jason looked at her, surprised by how accurately she captured what he could never quite describe. Then her expression changed. Warmer, but also more serious. "But I need to tell you something, Jason," she continued. "If we're going to explore whatever this is," she gestured gently between them, "I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be honest. Not always with me, but with yourself." Her honesty disarmed him in a way nothing else had since the collapse of his marriage. Before he could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced down, frowning at the screen. "Everything okay?" Jason asked. Rachel hesitated. "It's my sister. She's been dealing with something complicated. I may need to drive over tonight." Jason nodded. "Of course. Do what you need to do." But she didn't leave right away. Instead, she stepped forward again, closing the small distance between them. "One more thing," she said. "What's that?" Rachel touched his hand. Not romantic, not dramatic, just grounding. "Don't let what they did to you convince you that you're unworthy of real trust." He swallowed, feeling something tighten in his chest. "And Jason, if you fall for me, fall slowly. I'm not going anywhere." With that, She grabbed her bag and camera, then headed toward the exit of the studio classroom. Before leaving, she turned back and smiled. Gentle, natural, unforced. It was the first smile directed at him in months that didn't feel like it came with a hidden agenda. And for the first time since the disaster with Olivia and Tyler, Jason felt something unfamiliar but welcome. Hope. Quiet. Fragile. But real. He packed up his equipment slowly, replaying her words in his mind. And for once, the past didn't feel like a weight dragging him backward. It felt like a story that was finally reaching its end. But what he didn't yet know, what he couldn't have known, was that the final chapters would bring revelations he never saw coming. Because Olivia wasn't done. And Tyler's shadow still stretched further than Jason imagined. Jason didn't sleep that night. He lay in the dark, replaying Rachel's words over and over. Her calm honesty had cracked something open in him, something he wasn't sure he was ready to face. But before he could make sense of any of it, his phone vibrated on the nightstand. 1:47 a.m., unknown number. He stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. When he finally picked up, a shaky breath crackled through the line. "Jason, it's me. Olivia." Her voice was faint, trembling like she was speaking from a place she shouldn't be. He sat up immediately. "Olivia, what's going on?" A choked sound, half sob, half gasp. I didn't know who else to call." Jason closed his eyes. Even now, after everything, her desperation still hit him in the gut. "Where are you?" A long pause. "At the river bridge. I needed to think." Jason's body went cold. The river bridge was isolated at night. Too isolated. "Olivia, stay where you are. No," she cut in, her voice rising. "Jason, listen to me. You need to know something. Something Tyler didn't tell you. Something I didn't tell you." His pulse spiked. "What are you talking about?" But before she could answer, another voice echoed faintly behind her. Low, male, unmistakably angry. Jason froze. "Is someone with you?" The connection crackled. Olivia's breath hitched, like she'd been grabbed or shoved. Then, beep. The line went dead. Jason was already grabbing his keys before he fully registered what was happening. Whatever caution he'd built, whatever boundaries he'd set, all of that dissolved the moment he heard fear in her voice. He sped across town, streets blurring past, headlights carving tunnels through the darkness. At the base of the bridge, he slammed the car door and ran up the concrete steps 2 at a time. Wind whipped across the water, cold and sharp. A single street lamp flickered overhead. "Olivia!" he shouted. Silence. Then a silhouette emerged near the railing, a small figure hugging her arms against the cold. He approached slowly, cautiously. "Olivia?" She turned, and Jason's stomach dropped. Her face was pale, eyes swollen from crying. But what terrified him wasn't her expression. It was the thick bruise wrapping around her wrist, like someone had grabbed her hard. "Who was here?" Jason demanded, voice low. Olivia tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "He found me. He said he wanted to talk, to fix things. But when I tried to leave—" "Tyler?" Jason growled. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Jason's fists clenched until his knuckles popped. "He's not supposed to be anywhere near you," Jason said. "He violated every condition of his release." Olivia shook her head. No, Jason, you don't understand. He wasn't released." Jason stiffened. "What? He escaped?" The words hit like a punch to the chest. Jason stared at her, trying to process the impossible. "That's not possible. he whispered. But Olivia's expression wasn't one of confusion or dramatics. It was terror. He got out 2 nights ago. They didn't tell the media yet. They're afraid of public panic. Her voice shook violently. Jason, he blames us both. He said he's coming for you. Jason felt something shift inside him. Not fear, but a cold, razor-edged clarity. Olivia, he said slowly, why did he come to you first? She swallowed hard. Tears filled her eyes. Because he thinks I betrayed him, and because I told the investigators everything I hadn't told before. Jason stepped closer. What did you tell them? Her lips trembled. That the recordings? The blackmail? The hotel operations? She inhaled shakily. I helped him. Not because I wanted to, but because he threatened me. And when I finally tried to stop him, he said he'd ruin both of us. Jason stared at her, heart hammering. This was bigger than anything he'd suspected. Bigger than the betrayal, the lies, the affair. It wasn't just cheating. It was coercion, manipulation, control. And now Tyler, dangerous, unpredictable, with nothing left to lose, was out there. Jason took off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. We need to go, he said firmly. Right now. Where? She whispered. Somewhere safe. Somewhere he won't look. But as he guided her toward the car, Olivia stopped abruptly and grabbed his arm. Jason, he turned. There's more, she whispered. Tyler said something before he left. Jason's stomach tightened. What did he say? Her voice dropped to a whisper. He said he still has videos no one's seen yet. Ones that could destroy more lives. Including yours. The wind howled through the bridge railings, carrying her words into the darkness. And for the first time in months, Jason felt something he thought he'd overcome. Fear. Not for himself, but for what was coming. Jason drove Olivia home in silence. The only sound in the car was the soft hum of the engine and Olivia's uneven breathing. She held his jacket tightly around herself, as if she feared the cold might break her apart. Jason didn't rush her and didn't push her with questions. After everything that had happened, silence felt safer than words. When he finally pulled up in front of her parents' house, Olivia didn't move. Her fingers gripped the fabric of his jacket, knuckles pale, eyes fixed on the darkened windows of the house. I don't want to go inside yet, she whispered. Jason nodded. We can stay here as long as you need. She exhaled shakily. I didn't call you to trap you into anything. I didn't know who else could listen to me without hating me. Jason watched her profile in the dim glow of the streetlight. She looked older somehow. Not in age, but in weight. Like the guilt and shame had added years she wasn't ready to carry. I don't hate you, Olivia, he said quietly. I haven't for a long time. Her eyes filled instantly. You should. Jason shook his head. What good would that do? It wouldn't change anything. Not what you did. Not what happened after. She pressed her lips together, swallowing her tears. I ruined everything, Jason. Your career, our marriage, your trust in people, even your peace. Every step I took hurt you more. Jason leaned back in his seat, staring out the windshield. You didn't ruin my career, he said. I left that company before it destroyed me. And the marriage, it ended because it had to. Not because I wanted it to, but because it wasn't built on truth anymore. Olivia lowered her head. You always deserved better. I deserved honesty, Jason said softly. But so did you. She looked up, startled. What do you mean? Jason sighed. You spent years trying to be perfect, the perfect wife, the perfect partner, the perfect everything. You hid every flaw, every insecurity, every fear. And when someone like Tyler showed you attention, you felt seen for the first time. Olivia covered her face with her hands. Please don't make excuses for me. They're not excuses, Jason said gently. They're reasons. Reasons I didn't understand before. Reasons you didn't tell me. She lowered her hands slowly. Tears trickled down her cheeks. I was afraid you'd leave, she whispered. Jason's voice softened even more. Olivia, I left because you weren't honest, not because you weren't perfect. Her breath caught. He could tell she'd never thought of it that way. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two people who had once shared dreams, now sharing regret. Then Olivia spoke again. Do you ever think about if things had gone differently? Jason didn't answer immediately. Finally, he nodded. Sometimes, but thinking about it doesn't change what we became. She inhaled slowly, her voice trembling. I'm trying to be better, Jason. I really am. Therapy, working with the investigators, everything. I want to understand why I made the choices I did. I want to make sure I never hurt anyone again. I know, Jason said. And he meant it. They sat quietly, the weight between them shifting, not disappearing, but becoming something they could both look at without flinching. After a minute, he continued. Your life isn't over, and neither is mine. We're just separate now, that's all. Olivia nodded, though he could see it hurt her deeply. I'm glad you found someone who treats you with kindness, she whispered. Rachel seems good. Jason paused. She is. Olivia looked out the window. Then please, don't let what I did stop you from letting someone in. He didn't know what to say to that. The truth was, he was still learning how to let himself feel again. But he didn't want to burden her with that. Instead, he said, You'll get through this, Olivia. Not because I'm helping you, not because anyone else will, but because you're finally choosing honesty with everyone, including yourself. Olivia touched the bruise on her wrist, wincing slightly. Thank you for coming tonight, she whispered. Even if you shouldn't have. Jason offered a small, tired smile. It's okay. She reached for the door handle, hesitated, then turned back to him one last time. I hope one day, she said softly, you'll remember me for something other than my mistakes. He didn't promise anything, but he didn't reject the hope either. As she stepped out into the cool night air and walked slowly toward the house, Jason leaned back and closed his eyes. For the first time in months, the weight of everything didn't crush him. It simply settled. A chapter closing, gently instead of violently. And somewhere in the quiet he realized he wasn't angry anymore, just ready, finally, to move forward. The next morning, sunlight pushed gently through the curtains of Jason's small riverside home. He hadn't meant to fall asleep on the couch, but the quiet rhythm of the night had finally lulled him into rest. For the first time in a long while, he didn't wake up with a knot in his stomach. Instead, there was a soft, unexpected calm. He brewed a cup of coffee, stepped out onto the deck, and watched the river drift lazily downstream. The world felt peaceful in a way it hadn't for months. His phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. If you're awake, I'm heading to the farmer's market. Want to join me? No pressure. Just thought of you. He stared at the screen for a moment. The old version of him, the one buried under suspicion, hurt, and self-protection, would have hesitated, would have come up with reasons to stay isolated. But the man who'd sat in that car with Olivia the night before, he felt something different. Not readiness, not certainty, but a kind of quiet willingness. Jason typed back, "I'd like that. I'll meet you there." At the market. The morning smelled of fresh bread, fruit, and warm pavement. Families moved between stalls, vendors called out prices, and children laughed somewhere near the flower section. Jason spotted Rachel near a stand with jars of honey. She wore a loose cream sweater and jeans, her hair tied in a messy bun, a camera strap slung across her chest. She smiled when she saw him. A genuine smile, one that didn't demand anything from him. "You look like you slept for more than 4 hours," she joked lightly. "First time in a while," he admitted. They walked slowly through the stalls. Jason didn't notice when his shoulders began to loosen, or when his breathing matched the relaxed pace of the morning. Being around Rachel didn't require masks, didn't require explanations. She stopped at a basket of lemons, picked one up, then looked at him. "You don't have to talk about last night," she said gently. "But if you want to, I'm here." Jason appreciated that she didn't pry. Instead, he nodded slightly. "I saw Olivia," he said. "She wanted to talk." Rachel listened without interrupting. Her eyes were steady, warm, unjudging. "How do you feel about it?" she finally asked. Jason thought for a moment. "Strange, sad, I guess. And lighter." Rachel smiled softly. "That sounds like healing." Jason let out a slow breath. "Maybe it is." They wandered through the rest of the market, sampling strawberries, debating the best type of bread, laughing over a vendor who insisted his tomatoes could change your life. And with each moment, the weight he'd carried felt a little less like armor, and a little more like something he'd finally set down. A quiet moment. They stopped by the river on their walk back to the parking lot. A breeze lifted the edge of Rachel's sweater, and she tucked her hair behind her ear. "Jason," she said quietly, "I want to be honest with you." He turned, attentive. "I like you," she continued, her voice soft but steady. "But I need you to tell me if you're ready for someone in your life. Not fully, not perfectly. Just open." Jason looked out at the water, watching how sunlight danced across the surface. For months, everything had felt complicated, heavy, fragile. But right here, right now, with Rachel standing beside him, it felt simple. "I'm not perfect," he said slowly, "and I'm not fully healed. But I'm willing to try. With you." Her smile wasn't wide or dramatic. It was gentle, relieved, real. "That's all I needed to hear," she whispered. They didn't rush into anything. They didn't kiss immediately like in a movie scene. They just stood together, shoulders almost touching, watching the river move. For the first time in a long time, Jason wasn't looking backward. He wasn't afraid of what could go wrong. He was simply present. And that, more than anything, was progress. The house was silent that night, the kind of silence that presses on your ribs and makes every breath feel borrowed. She sat across from me at the dining table, eyes red, hands trembling, as if she already knew this was the moment everything would finally snap. But it didn't. Not the way she expected. "I need to tell you the rest," she whispered, staring at the wood grains on the table as if they could offer her a path out. "About the date." I didn't flinch. I'd already replayed her words 100 times in my head. The way she'd spoken about another man, soft, excited, like she had forgotten I existed. The way she tested boundaries, tested us, maybe without even meaning to. "Say it," I said. Calm. Too calm. She took a sharp breath. "He kissed me. And I didn't stop him fast enough. Silence. Not rage, not jealousy, just the heavy, disorienting collapse of something I once thought was unbreakable. But I kept my eyes on her, steady, unwavering. "And why are you telling me now?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "Because I thought I was losing you long before this. Because we stopped talking, stopped touching, stopped seeing each other. And instead of fighting for us, I tried to fill the emptiness with a stranger's attention. For a moment, I almost hated how honest she was, how vulnerable she looked, how much of our downfall was written in both our hands. "And what do you want now?" I finally asked. She looked up, not with expectation, but devastation. "I want you, us, but I'll take whatever you decide, even if it's goodbye." There it was, the thing she'd been terrified to say, the thing I'd been trying to pretend I wasn't walking toward. I pushed my chair back slowly, stood up, and walked around the table. Her breath hitched, thinking this was it, the moment I'd leave. Instead, I crouched in front of her. Her eyes widened, wet, trembling. "I'm not leaving," I said quietly. "Not today." Her hands flew to her mouth, a sob ripping out of her chest. "But," I continued, steady but firm, "we're not pretending nothing happened. We rebuild from the truth, or we don't rebuild at all." She nodded quickly, desperately. "Yes, anything, I'll do anything." I didn't touch her yet. Not out of coldness, out of fragility. Some things have to be rebuilt slowly, carefully, like bones after a break. "We start with honesty," I said, "and consequences." Another nod, another tear. "And you?" she asked between shaky breaths. "Do you still love me?" I didn't look away. "I never stopped," I said. "That's the problem, and the reason we have a chance." This time I reached for her hand. And she held it like someone who'd been drowning for months. The pain didn't disappear. The betrayal didn't evaporate. Nothing magically healed. But for the first time in a long time, we weren't speaking from fear or ego. We were speaking from the wreckage and choosing together to climb out. Not perfect, not pretty, not guaranteed, but alive, together, and willing. And sometimes that's enough to begin again.